people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News. Okay, we'll start with this. We now know who unbeaten Micaiah Kreps of Niagara Falls is going to be facing in April. She's going to be facing Danielle Bennett. Experienced fighter, has been in there with some good fighters herself. At the Seneca Resort and Casino, where Micaiah has already fought a good number of times already, what is seemingly her home base, she'll be facing 34-year-old southpaw Danielle Bennett, who's a tall drink of water as far as super bantamweights go, standing in at about 5'8". Doesn't seem like much, but for a 122-pound fighter, that's actually on the taller end of the spectrum to Micaiah Kreps, who stands in at 5'3", sporting a professional record of 9 wins with no losses, no draws, 3 knockouts. Arguably, the best kept secret at 122 pounds, the best fighter everybody's not talking about, not yet. She'll be facing Danielle, who sports a professional record of 9 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 2 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 11 professional bouts. Their quality of competition is about the same. They faced a similar caliber of fighters over the years, with the difference being that Micaiah doesn't have the career blemishes that Danielle Bennett has. Danielle, who lost a majority decision to Canada's own McKenna Tansley back in 2021, lost another decision to Fenerae Natisri of Germany in 2023, but she does have a win over Shurita Metcalf, who went on to become IBF Bantamweight champion, so that's a victory that's aging well for Danielle. Respectable quality of competition so far from Danielle. The same applies to Micaiah, without the career blemishes. Went over a solid journeywoman, solid gatekeeper in India Smith, a solid fighter in Melissa Odessa Parker, and a former champion, a win over a former champion in her last fight to Mayerline Rivas. Fought 2 times last year. This is going to be her first fight in this one. And so far, so good from Micaiah. She's been doing the job and looking the part. The question now is, if she wins this fight against Danielle, how far off is she from challenging for an alphabet title, from challenging one of the champions at this weight? She comes in at number 13 via the World Boxing Council, 13 with the WBC. She ranks in at number 4 with the WBO. Number 4 with the WBO, number 2 with the WBA, with the World Boxing Association. She's not far off with them. And with the IBF, she comes in at number 1. She is the highest ranked contender via the IBF, coming in at number 1 ahead of everybody else. So that's the alphabet organization she's closest to fighting for an alphabet title. The IBF champion is Ellie Scottney, who was in action not that long ago opposite the ring New Zealand zone, Mia Motu. And thus, it's conceivable that if Micaiah beats Danielle in her next fight, afterwards, a fight might be ordered between Micaiah Kreps and Ellie Scottney.
Catford.
That'd be a really good fight. I think a more difficult and dangerous fight for Ellie Scottney than her last one was. The fight with Miyamoto. Mia's a strong puncher, a slugger, and very durable, but she doesn't have the skill set of a Micaiah Kreps. The mobility, agility, boxing acumen, and some power. Yeah, she can punch. I think she brings a lot more to the table than some of the other girls that Ellie Scottney has fought so far, which makes her a challenging opponent. And she looks very close to becoming Ellie's mandatory challenger. So that's what's on the line for her in this Danielle Bennett fight. A shot at the big time. A chance to challenge the champion for 2 alphabet titles. If she gets through this fight. I suppose that the same applies to Danielle, but she's not ranked as highly as Micaiah. Still a ways to go for her. And we will give Danielle Bennett a closer look to see what she brings to the table and what exactly is Micaiah going to be dealing with. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, the continued fallout to this past weekend's action. What is the gift draw Gervonta Davis got in a fight that a lot of people think he lost? Resident bootlicker Ellie Sucksack is hard at work playing spin doctor for Gervonta, saying, "To everyone who is now a boxing expert, spoke today to one of the top referees in boxing. He explained to me that different states may have different rules to similar situations. They may vary from state to state. A statement intended to exonerate Gervonta Davis from deliberately taking a knee, which should have been ruled a knockdown." And should have costed him the fight. Because it wasn't. Attention now turns to veteran referee Steve Willis, who we're all familiar with. He's at the center of this controversy and how he officiated this fight. But before we turn our attention to Steve and what needs to be done, Ellie's got a lot of nerve. He's been in the sport long enough that he should know people don't take him at his word. They take him for what he is: a brown-noser, a bootlicker, a roadie, a sidekick, and a professional groupie for Gervonta Davis that when you go up to bat for him, nobody's taking you at your word. Nobody's listening to you. Even if they might watch your videos. Ones they can actually stomach. Even if they do watch some of your videos, they don't actually hold you or your opinions in high esteem. That when you attempt to play defense attorney for Gervonta Davis, everything you in particular, have to say falls on deaf ears. Now over to Steve Willis. Veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael said, referee Steve Willis, who was mic'd up, literally says to Tank, "You take a knee like that, and then it looks like a knockdown. You know why? Because it was a knockdown." What are we doing here? It's what Steve's not doing that has everybody's attention. He didn't do his job. Steve Willis, as a referee, gained some accord, some notoriety circa 2014 and 2015 for the faces that he makes during a fight while he's officiating, that he really does seem to enjoy his job. He's got the best seat in the house. Seems to really enjoy his job, and for that, a lot of people really enjoyed him. That endeared Steve Willis to the boxing community at large because they felt like he was one of them. He just works on the other side of the business. Now people are wondering if he even should, because you failed to do your job here and you're not a rookie. You ain't new to this. Veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael continued, even worse. Tank was hit by a jab before he purposely took a knee. That's a knockdown. You also cannot go to your corner and get toweled off during the round as he did. Could have been DQ'd for that or had a second point taken. Roach got absolutely screwed hard. The way he officiated that fight has a lot of people scratching their heads because it looks like you deliberately looked the other way. You gave Gervonta Davis every possible consideration, so you are a party to the chicanery. You let this guy take a knee. You don't call him on it. You let him run to his corner, and God knows what he's doing with the people in his corner. For all we know, they're giving him something to hop him up. We don't know. Nasal spray, Panama Lewis shakes. God only knows what they're doing in the corner, and you're watching him do it, and you didn't penalize Gervonta. You didn't penalize his corner. It's a little more than just an infraction. The amount of stuff that you let Gervonta Davis get away with during this fight.
The ninth round was kind of a microcosm of Gervonta Davis's life in some ways. 43 seconds into the ninth round, he just decided, you know what? I'm going to take a timeout. There are no timeouts in boxing, as we all know.
That referee has a lot of experience. For you not to call that knee a knockdown is crazy, bro. It's crazy.
But he decided, I'm going to take a timeout because I said so. And he got away with that too. So he gets away with a lot of things that you shouldn't get away with.
For you to take a knee and the referee not call it, that's crazy. Then the excuse after why he took a knee was even more crazy. He said he had grease in his eye. People fight with blood in their eye, all type of stuff, from headbutts, etc. The leverage that you have as a superstar is amazing. And listen, you know the slogan stat, if you can get away with it, get away with it. But that was, this case. Yeah. This is totally the referee fault because you can't blame the judges. The reason you can't blame the judges is because if the referee then counted as a knockdown, you can't score it as a knockdown. So that puts the judges in a compromising position for that particular round.
Keith Idek, via his own social media, continued, Matt Delaglio, executive director of the New York State Athletic Commission, needs to explain why replay wasn't used appropriately when it was readily available, and why didn't Gary Jonas, Roach's promotional rep at ringside, demand that the New York State Athletic Commission take a closer look at what happened early in the ninth.
Why, you ask? Why? A-side privileges.
I'm not trying to justify it to you. I'm just explaining that if they let Gervonta Davis get away with this much, it's because he's the A-side. They just need to do a better job of hiding it, because too much happened in front of too many people, and now they want Steve Willis's head on a pike. I don't blame them.
It wasn't just what happened in the 9th round, you know. At one point in the fight, both boys are tied up. They're in a clinch. And Gervonta Davis fouls Lamont Roach with his right shoulder, shoving his right shoulder into Lamont Roach's chin. And Steve Willis was right there, next to them, as it happened.
Watching Gervonta Davis do it, but not calling him on it, not warning him about it, where I've seen other referees in other fights literally deduct a point for that same thing. I understand that different referees have different refereeing styles, that some referees allow for things to get chippier than some others, but when you put that entire night all together, that Steve Willis is standing there watching Gervonta Davis foul Lamont Roach, that he goes as far as letting him take a knee without calling it a knockdown, lets him run to his corner, turn his back all the way around on his opponent.
That's an infraction too, you know.
That's breaking the rules too. Turning completely around, let alone turning completely around, then running to your corner.
Steve's watching him do it.
All which constitute gross negligence on Steve's part, because Gervonta can only get away with this stuff if Steve lets him. And by all accounts, he did, to the point where now people speculate that behind the scenes, Lamont Roach may be petitioning the New York State Athletic Commission to have the draw ruled a loss.
Gervonta Davis's first loss.
Earlier today, Lamont Roach took to his social media and said, "Word round the block is y'all Fay fighter is finna be 30-1, not 30-0-1. Two-time, two-division champion."
There's talk of a rematch, which we discussed in my previous video, and that could be what Lamont Roach is hinting at, but some are interpreting this as a petition to the New York State Athletic Commission to penalize Steve Willis for not calling that knee a knockdown.
The only ones with the power to do anything in this situation are the New York State Athletic Commission.
That is, penalizing Steve Willis, bringing him up for review, and subsequently suspending him for not doing his job.
Reflecting that Gervonta Davis taking a knee in the 9th round counts as a knockdown, and giving the fight to Lamont Roach, all of which would be a dramatic turn of events. But if anybody has the teeth to do it, it's the New York State Athletic Commission.
Some speculate that's what's going on, which is why all of a sudden Gervonta Davis has had a change of heart, where on Saturday night he said there's going to be a rematch, but it won't be this year. Now what he's saying is that the rematch could happen as soon as May.
Why?
Perhaps to get Lamont Roach and his team to ease off.
They give him the rematch as soon as possible so that he doesn't petition the New York State Athletic Commission.
That rhymed.
Because it's not a secret that in the last 48 hours, Gervonta Davis has had a quite public change of heart. From the rematch won't happen this year to it could happen in a matter of months.
Now that could be due to public pressure.
But it could also be to get Lamont Roach and his team to ease off.
Everybody's blaming Steve Willis because Gervonta Davis can only get away with what you let him. And by all accounts, you did. You let him.
You let him get away with a lot. You let him get away with too much in front of too many people.
There's A-side privileges, and then there's gross negligence.
Steve Willis has a lot to answer for.
Why did a fight between yourself and Teofimo not get over the line?
Oh, I don't know. They trying to say I was asking for too much. We didn't even send my offer or nothing. So I don't think they really wanted to fight, to be honest. Hopefully we get the fight in like September or something.
So you had no offer actually put to you or on the
I didn't get
table?
no offer. I didn't send them a number or nothing. But they basically said that I was pricing myself out. We didn't even ask for nothing.
Another bona fide case of he said, she said, where Teofimo Lopez claimed that Richardson Hitchins priced himself out of, the Ring Magazine card that Turkey's putting on, Richardson Hitchins said they never even talked about numbers. They never got to a point where Hitchins' people asked for anything. And I suppose it doesn't really matter because whether it's Richardson Hitchins
or Arnold Barboza, they both present the same challenges to Teofimo. In many ways, as opponent choices, they are interchangeable. But because Richardson Hitchins is a reigning champion, as opposed to just being a contender like Arnold, it is possible that he asked for a little something extra.
It is possible. I just don't know that we can take it from Teofimo, that we can take him at his word when he's become a bit of a troll as of late. The stuff he's been doing.
It's childish. So is lying about Richardson Hitchins pricing himself out, is lying outside the realm of possibility?
I don't know. What I do know is that Arnold Barboza is a taller, longer fighter, just like Richardson Hitchins would have been. He's a back foot fighter and a mover, a jabber, fancies himself a bit of a boxer, just like Richardson Hitchins does, so he presents the same challenges. That you can't say Teofimo has taken the path of least resistance, if for nothing else, because Arnold is his mandatory anyway. He has to fight him. If you're not unifying with anybody, and you're not, then you have to fight him.
Interesting particulars in association with that fight is that while Teofimo is said to have hired Eddie Reynoso to corner him moving forward, I don't think he's going to be in his corner that weekend, because that same weekend, Canelo Alvarez is fighting.
And you don't need me to tell you who's Eddie Reynoso's top priority in the gym. It's Canelo over everybody. It's Canelo over everybody, and Canelo is going to be in Saudi that weekend. I don't imagine that Eddie's going to be in Teofimo's corner in New York, then jump on a plane to be in Canelo's corner in Saudi?
That's a lot.
So hypothetically speaking, Eddie Reynoso may not be in Teofimo Lopez's corner at a time where he's facing a tricky opponent, tricky at least for him, based on what we've seen from Teofimo in previous instances against movers and jabbers and boxers. He don't look good against those guys.
Those are the guys he struggles with. That's what he'll be facing with Arnold Barboza, and Eddie won't be there?
Might not. It would seem that karma might end up spinning the block in May when Teofimo Lopez enters the ring. He's going out of his way to ruffle people's feathers, trying to be controversial, in many ways, forcing it.
So that if something happens to him in his next fight, don't look for pity, don't look for sympathy.
So even if Eddie Reynoso isn't in his corner the night of, can't they work on things in the camp that he can bring to the fight? What he has to work on is do a better job of closing a distance and being responsible while you do it. Don't just go winging stupid shots the way you normally do. Throwing punches before you're even in position to land them, because that's what Teofimo does. He gives in to desperation when closing a distance and leaves himself wide open against a taller, longer fighter who doesn't need to be close to him to touch him.
It is not a good idea.
Winging stupid, irresponsible punches is why George Kambosos knocked him down. That's why George Kambosos beat him. That's why Teofimo struggled with Sandor and struggled with Jermaine.
A tale that's now as old as time.
So what he has to work on is closing the distance at which the fight is being fought, being patient while he does it, to look for openings or create them. And I don't know that Teofimo has the mind for that, because if you watch him, he's a very fidgety guy, you know. That manifests in how he performs. He's very herky-jerky, whereas this would take a bit of calm and cool and poise.
Can he do that? I don't know. We'll see.